Welcome back, everyone, to Unarmored Talk Podcast. I'm still your host, Mario P. Fields, and I have another guest who's willing to come on the show to remove his armor to help other people gain a better understanding that you cannot control what happens to you in life for the most part. But if you're saying you can think through some things and understand there's a difference between reacting and responding and learning from each other. Mark Schuster is my guest. He recently retired as a United States Marine Corps colonel, my friend. Semper Fi, thank you for your 8,000 years of service.
Mm.
Y'all know I'm gonna throw some humor in
Pleasure.
there. Actually, he started his Marine Corps journey in 1991 and more. Without further ado, Mark, please welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Mario. It's a real honor to be here. I'm humbled to be asked to join you on your show, and I'm looking forward to just having an unarmored talk with you. So maybe we can relate some stories to other Marines and sailors and soldiers and airmen and guardians and coasties and see if we can help some people out. Did I get them all right? That's all six, right? I think.
And you Space Force too. I think we gotta get
I
this.
said
We gotta add.
guardians.
Yeah,
I think I said
there we go.
guardians. There we
Y'all
go.
know I've been retired for some years, so I'm learning. That's why I love, the choice to learn every day. The other thing too, and we'll get into the topic here, quickly. Is I believe that your journey, my friend, could be applied to anyone
Mhm.
in any industry, literally. But before I bring our guest on, you guys know the deal. Thank you for supporting this show. Again, this is for charity for our first time listeners, or if you're watching on YouTube, every time you watch, click on any episode or you share any episode, it is for charity. Goes to my nonprofit. www.stillservinginc.com is where you can learn more about this amazing nonprofit that is 6 years in running this year, and we've donated over 20 plus $1,000 that goes directly to our future of our world, and that is Pitt County high school students in the low income community, underserved community, and we've been doing well. I'm done with the pitch. I'm done with the admin. Mark, can you please tell the listeners and viewers just a little bit about you and who you are?
Sure. Mark Schuster, retired Marine Colonel. Retired 1 February 2024. I come from a military family. My dad was an Air Force veteran. He joined during the Korean conflict in 1952. He served for about 4 years, had an early out due to his father's third heart attack when he passed away in 1955. My brother is a retired Marine infantry officer and much smarter than me, better in the Marine Corps than me, but I always said he had the brains, I had the looks. I mean, come on. But my brother retired in 2008, had a tremendous career, and he was a UCLA ROTC grad in 1988. I spent
Wow.
about 3 years with him as a high school little brother, and then in 1991, I graduated with a commission from UCLA and ROTC as well. Two brother-in-laws that served in the Marine Corps, so we are a military family, and I've also got a son and two brother-in-laws that are in law enforcement. So we really are a family of service, and very proud of it. Um, my journey originally came out of the basic school as a 3502. Mario, do you remember what that MOS is?
It's Motor T, isn't it?
Yeah, Motor T. And so I served in 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, had no idea there were Motor T officers there. And when I checked into the division and my brother found out I was going to a grunt unit, he just laughed on the phone and hung up on me. So, but I was very blessed to serve with some incredible Marines and have an amazing journey. 36 months at Camp Lejeune from 92 to 95. And I was deployed almost 32 of them, 2-4-MU, CAXes, operations in Somalia, Haiti, Kuwait, Iraqi border, all around the Middle East. That's my cat. And just a really pleasant opportunity to serve, great challenges. And after that, I was sent up to RS Springfield and became the XO of a recruiting station and learned a lot. I had a lot of blind spots. I had a lot of immaturity, and I got my butt kicked on a daily basis. But in the mid 90s, there really wasn't that much going on in the world, and the Marine Corps was in a different state. I remember getting issued all types of things from pens to toilet paper. We had a tough budget, and it was hard. So in July of 1997, I left active duty. Took me, my wife at the time, and my 6-week-old son, who's now 27, and left active duty. Drove out of Springfield, Massachusetts, stopped in Waterbury, Connecticut, and I was able to meritoriously promote Sergeant Wargo to Staff Sergeant. I worked 2 years to help him get meritorious promotion. He's now a retired
Mm-hmm.
master. and went back to the Camp Pendleton area, and I joined USPA and IRA, also known as First Command Financial now, as a financial advisor. And the problem was for me, I was not prepared for transition off active duty. I had no mentorship, no coaching, no counseling, no transition assistance, no TAP, no TAMP, none of the processes, procedures, and organizations designed to help us transition existed. So I was lost, Mario.
And Margaret, and if I may, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Um, from the surface, I believe a lot of folks will see someone like you, a retired colonel, has this bachelor's degree minimum, things are in order, you're married, and you make this decision to get out in 97. But from my basic understanding, when you made that decision to get out, there was a lot of turbulence that occurred because of that decision, and I use that metaphorically. What were some of the challenges that you and your family faced when you just made that decision without doing lots of research or whatever?
yeah. First thing that happened to me was a complete loss of identity, sense of
Mm,
purpose, and a meaning in my life. I I I joined First Command Financial and was in the Oceanside, California office because I wanted to help military members, Marines specifically, and their families learn how to live within their means and build wealth, because that is what it had done for me and my wife at the time. Um,
right.
but what I found was that I was completely unprepared for that transition because I didn't have any foundation. I don't think I studied it well. I didn't prepare well. There were no types of bridge programs for us. It literally was, I went home my last night on recruiting duty on 30 June, and I just left on 1 July and took off. And there were no resources, no counseling, no shared experience, no social media. So you're on your own. And about a year later, my home life was in the toilet. I entered a deep, dark depression. Um, I wasn't interested in doing anything. I wasn't interested in my family. I wasn't interested in my new son. I wasn't interested. I was in. My brother was stationed at Pendleton at the time, but he was deployed with the MEU, and my sister-in-law was babysitting my son. I wasn't motivated to do my job. I couldn't function. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I didn't want to get involved in anything, and I attribute that to a real loss of identity. Next thing you know, I am in debt. I was debt. We were debt free. And because you're independent, I racked up a tremendous amount of debt. I wasn't prepared
Mm,
to run a business. And I just walked out one day. Now I'm driving a limo. I'm chasing hot air balloons. I'm trying to pay the bills as best I can. I have no focus. And so what I did was, somebody mentioned to me, like, well, are you out of the Marine Corps or are you just off active duty? I go, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, well, did you do all 8 years of your ROTC commitment? I was like, no, I don't think so. Well, call headquarters Marine Corps to see if you can go back in the Marine Corps. So I called up, and somehow I figured out I got a hold of Reserve Affairs, and they're like, yeah, you're still in the IRR. If you want to affiliate and go start drilling, go ahead. So I found out about one MACE, the MEF Augmentation Command Element. It was a reserve 1-star organization that had direct support to one MEF. And I found out that they had a unit there, and I went in and talked to the major, and he's like, hey, why don't you come on board, start drilling. Next thing I find out is the G4 decided to go back in active duty. He was an AR Marine. Now we call AR. And back then, full-time support, FTS, I believe, was the program. And so I put in an AR package, and they told me that I was going to get selected and I would stay right there at Camp Pendleton, and maybe I go back in Marine Corps because I didn't want to move again. So my boss called the monitor, his buddy, and he's like, yeah, Schuster's good. And 2 months later, the list comes out and they're sending me to Camp Lejeune. I'm like,
you
wait a
if you don't mind, what's interesting about your journey, and a lot of people, I want to make sure they get it, is his shoes. I'll call you Shoe, yeah, just
minute.
so you
Yeah,
guys I
I say
know
you,
all stuff.
problem.
Mark's family fell apart. Mark, literally his entire family structure just fell apart. Number one. Number two is I hear a lot. I do part-time employment facilitator for U.S. Department of Labor. Matter of fact, I have some workshops coming up this week, and I sometimes I hear people say, that, oh, these workshops are a scam. Not all people, but I've heard people say, oh, these workshops are a scam, or it doesn't really prepare you. And I'm glad that, I'm glad during this interview that you brought up when you got out 97, how the resources weren't available and what happened compared to 2024
Mhm.
and what's available. So
Yeah,
I
completely.
just wanted to highlight that, because if you believe you would have had what you have now, do you believe things would have been a little bit different?
100%. One, I might have decided to stay in the Marine Corps. But two, I think I would have been much more prepared if you're open to listening, because you know as
Mm,
well, like today, I have been blessed and I have the opportunity to teach and coach and mentor transitioning military, not always career, but sometimes just that first enlistment or first service as an officer. And oftentimes the most difficult military members we deal with, 9 out of 10 times, are the colonels and the sergeant majors, because you've been a sergeant major or a colonel for 30 plus years, or a general officer, and it is really hard to take that off, right? So look, you and I respect each other as sergeant major and colonel. And if the commandant put you and I back on active duty tomorrow and you and I got to have the pleasure of leading Marines, it'd be right back to sergeant major and colonel, right? But
yeah.
once we retire, once you leave, man, it's Mario and Mark or
Mario,
shoot. We
Mario,
respect it,
Mario.
but it doesn't mean anything anymore. And that loss of identity is what I struggled with. So everything's falling apart. How do I find work? And I'm trying to build a resume, no idea. I'm trying to interview, no idea. And what I'm basically doing is I'm coming into your company. I'm like, Mr. Mario Fields, I'm a captain in the Marine Corps. I can run your company. I'm going to take your job. And you're like, okay, have a nice day.
We're
Rather than
like,
yeah,
we'll
rather
be
than
in
being
touch with you.
humble, starting over.
We'll be in touch with you soon.
Yeah, we'll call you back. Sure. Uh, and so what resulted was I found a job placement agency for junior officers, and they placed me. I'm sorry. Let's go back real quick. I got selected for the ARA program. They wanted to send me to Camp Lejeune. It
Mhm.
was a big fight, and I got so pissed off at the monitor because he's like, no, he can't do the job at Camp Pendleton. We're going to send him to Lejeune. My boss is like, what are you going to do at Lejeune? Be the G4 for 2 Mace. And I went, what are you talking about? So they brought another officer in out of who wasn't in the Marine Corps, who's a fantastic officer, retired lieutenant colonel. He's an amazing guy. He took the job, no problem. But I was done with the Marine Corps. I was so angry, so bitter that I just left. And so in December of 99, I was discharged, mission complete, no interest in coming back in the Marine Corps. And by then I'd been placed and I started selling drugs in LA out of my car. Now, these are legal drugs for Pfizer, and I became a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
right.
was I was done with the Marine Corps, uh, but my life was still on a downward
Wow.
spiral. And 18 months later, I left that job, and I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't hold a family together, and I wound up getting into real estate. And I became a realtor in Southern California. Had a great mentor, and sold a house to a Marine. Happened to be an I&I at Weapons 223. And in late 2004, he's like, "Man, you should come back in the Marine Corps." I'm like, "Really? You want a former captain who's 37, fat, and out of shape to come back in the Marine Corps?" He goes, "Wait a minute. I just want you to be my RBE. It's a peacetime, wartime support billet. Just call the PSR." He slides me the card. And like most idiots in the Marine Corps, sometimes I call the guy. Well, thank God I did, because in January of '05, I went back in the Marine Corps Reserve component. And Mario, I
Wow.
blinked twice, maybe 3 times. And in February of this year, I retired with 27 years of service, 3 mobilizations. My last tour was as the IG for 4th MLG out of New Orleans. And I have so many more mentors and peers and incredible Marines and sailors that guided me along that path. And thankfully, the Marine Corps kept lowering the bar for promotions, and I kept sliding under there.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it's been a wonderful journey. But the most important piece was that I started getting my life back on track. Unfortunately, I got divorced, and I'm happily married today. You know my wife, Mary. You met her at the ball a couple years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful bride.
So that's kind of the basis of my journey. And work wise, I'm completely settled in my career and love it.
And I love I love how you are open minded, and you said it. A lot of people that I know you have dealt with, Shu, and I've dealt with, that the longer they serve, the more they become rigid, the
Mhm.
more they defend their belief system. I've seen it all. I've arrived. Okay. And I love how you mentioned how you chose to be open minded. the one person that said, "Are you on active duty?" Or, just imagine if you were rigid and you didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And then just to have certain people in your life choose to just engage you because they didn't have to, and then look what we got. Because I tell you, everyone, my wife and I a couple of years ago had the pleasure of going to a Marine Corps ball with Shu and his lovely wife Mary, and it was memorable, and we'll never forget you. I know I'm not gonna, and I do this to every guest. Shu, I would be so selfish to keep you on. And show me your cat, by the way. If you guys are watching, is your cat near you?
Uh,
I want to.
I got two
Let me
cats.
see real fast. If you're watching,
There's
look at that beauty.
the boy cat
Look
and
at,
the
oh,
white
look
cat.
at them. Look
Yeah,
at those beauties.
Sven and Lyra.
Yeah,
That's a weird thing to do on your show, but I'm happy to do it.
oh yeah, it's Unarmored Talk. It's Unarmored Talk. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
if you guys are listening, you better get on a YouTube channel and watch. He's got two beautiful two PFCs and lieutenant. You got a PFC and lieutenant. But
No, those two haven't made it past E3 yet. So, well,
but
based
but
on Sick Pack Wife.
but before I let you roll and continue to do great things on the west side of the hemisphere, are there any books or any books you would like to tell listeners and viewers about, and any piece of advice you would like to leave us with?
I would. I think when it comes to transitioning off military service, um, there's a couple things I'd recommend. Number one, I will tell you that I personally believe, as a retired senior Marine, I have a duty to continue to serve.
Amen.
And so please think about getting into your local Marine Corps League, your VFW, and your DAV. For us Marines and Navy corpsmen, the Marine Corps League is a phenomenal place because we are amongst our own, and we are there to support you and your family in all aspects, but we continue to serve. Find your local Marine Corps recruiters, find your retiree community, and find out how to serve. When you're looking at your transition, also, a few books I've got here. Absolutely. The first book that I recommend, by the way, I've been reading about 25, 30 books a year now since 2020. And remember that leaders read and readers lead. So the first book I would tell you is you want to get Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer. And this is one of the most successful books out there. It's nice and easy. You can read it in one evening. You want to follow that up with his follow-on book, which came out a few years ago, called Out of the Maze. So I strongly recommend you start with something simple in those two books, because what you're going through is you're going through change. The other thing that you want to focus on is you need a support network. I will tell you that professional military transition, your greatest tool is your network. Marines and sailors and airmen and guardsmen and guardians and coasties, that you have a career in the military, you are most likely not going to find your next career through the internet. You're going to do it through your network with individuals like us. So take a look at this book, Networking is a Contact Sport, by Joe Sweeney. It's an outstanding book. Credit goes to my cousin for recommending this book. And then another one that's going to help you out is a good buddy of mine, Colonel Ted Studdard. I don't know if you know him, brother. He's a phenomenal Marine. He wrote this book called Depot to Depot, or Depot to Depot, whichever you want to say it. He had a great 30-year career, retired colonel, and then he transitioned to Home Depot, and now he's got his own consulting business. 3 more books I recommend. We'll be done. Admiral McCraven, Make Your Bed. Read this book. You can see the speech online. Make your friggin' bed every day, people. And then if you want a mentor on life and business, one of the best out there is a gentleman named John C. Maxwell. And he's got great books. Make Today Count is a fantastic book. And then How Successful People Think. And I literally have a list of all the books I've read in the last 4.5 years, and it's a wonderful journey. And the last thing I would tell you is enjoy life. It's a blessing from God that we're here. This is a journey. We're all from the same, we all come from the same spirit and the same energy, and ask for help. And if you want my help, I'll be happy to do anything I could for anybody out there. And Mario, I'm really humbled that I find myself amongst your environment, your class. And I'll tell you, when we were at that ball for CLR 45, and I was there as the IG, right? My previous unit had been the XO there. When you got up and spoke, I looked at my wife and said, I'm going to add him to my personal board of directors. And that's the last thing I would tell you. We can't walk this journey alone. So create your own board of directors, people that you can count on, and ask for help and guidance and mentorship, and you will be successful. And stay positive, because negative energy gets negative energy. Positive energy gets positive energy.
I love it. And everyone, the books, again, great recommendations. They will be in the show notes. Your LinkedIn shoe will be in the show notes. And you guys heard all of the wonderful tips and wisdom and advice from Mark Schuster. Thank you so much. Please give my best to Mary. And I feel the same about you, man. You're just a good human. You love people. And I'm thankful that the things happen in your life to give you the wisdom to continue to make a positive impact on me and my wife and people around the world. Well, everyone, you guys know the deal. In a couple of weeks, we'll release another episode. But if you like to listen to me, my voice will be back on. If you like to watch me, please get on that channel. Other than that, may God continue to bless you, listeners and viewers. May God continue to bless your friends, families, and any living being around you. Mark Schuster, CO, Colonel, Sir, Sergeant Major says Semper Fi and all secure.
Hey, Semper Fi, my best to you and Nicole, and we might see you in a couple weeks out there. So you be safe, brother.
You too, my friend.